All right, so first of all, we're going to be mixing it up a little bit. We are absolutely not talking about AP2. So a little bit of a mix-up, but here we are. We are going to be talking about overcoming agentic adoption. So a really quick intro, I'm Taylor. I've been with Google for about 4 years. I spent 15 plus years selling enterprise technology, Google Cloud sales leader. I've worked across large institutions from financial services, manufacturing, heritage software companies, right? We're going to talk a little bit about where we stand today in the current ecosystem of agentic adoption. We're going to talk through some more practical tips as you all as founders are looking to navigate large enterprise and organizations. And then we're going to have a little bit of fun, maybe ask some questions. All right, so this is probably pretty familiar to you all, right? We've seen the stat, it's from MIT, it's from last year, and we're looking at 95% of Gen AI projects have yielded no measurable business returns despite 30, 40, 50, et cetera, billions of dollars of investment. It's pretty familiar. The perception is the problem right now. The magnitude of investments and ROI, they are not lining up. We also have only 25% of company leaders say they have comprehensive, defined AI roadmap in place for their organizations. Yet executives are pitched transformation on a daily basis, right? These are all pretty familiar things. We're all here, we're all in this world. We have a perception challenge. AI right now is more negatively perceived than our current president, for what that's worth. And there's also a lot of market uncertainty. So where are we moving now? Oh, I hate build slides. Come on, friends. There we go. Moving from the experimentation of 24, 25 into more of the AI usability era. We are seeing enterprise adoption across the spectrum, but the problem is that we are using old paradigm, old evaluation criteria, and adoption methodologies. So what we're seeing is the same old stuff that we've seen in adoption and technology adoption across the decades. We're seeing this in silos, we are seeing frustration, and now we are seeing more budgetary uncertainty. So what do we need? We need a novel approach. We need a new approach. It needs to be top down, but we also need to empower the employees not just as users, but as co-creators. Unfortunately, we're seeing a very large gap in terms of leadership enabling this. We have everything from more practically manifesting as you have like the podcast CEO. I don't know if you all listened to the AI Daily Brief, but they had a great episode on this a couple weeks back. And she was walking through the 4 archetypes. So to those archetypes, podcast CEO, someone who's so incredibly well-informed that they know every model, they know every release, how it's informing on the benchmarks, yet they have no frickin' idea how to implement this in their organization. There's a whole lot of vulnerability here, but no one's really admitting it. Instead, they're hiring very expensive consulting organizations, engaging organizations like Google, AWS, Microsoft, and we're all trying to figure this out, what this looks like in terms of true overall enterprise transformation. Now, going back to that 25% of executives have a vision for their organization, you also have the manifesto writer. It's very, very rare when you see a CEO who has budget and they have a firm understanding of the change that they want to drive and what AI is going to do in their organization. So now all of this, what does this mean for you when you're selling AI? So at Google, we're very fortunate. We've had AI in our products. We've been using AI for decades. Internal processes within our products. We have access to dog food our capabilities well in advance of product launches. But what does this mean when we look at organizational transformation? At Google, we're using this transformation framework, right? We're seeing our own internal adoption curve. And what this does, and just anchoring you all here, it also anchors and grounds our employees. When we're looking through how we're navigating this change, both in terms of what is the potential impact and also what is the time to value. So I want you to look at this framework and we're going to talk through more practically what this means as you all are selling into the enterprise. So when we're selling into the enterprise, what does this mean for you? Think about 3 main areas. And this may sound super simple, right? This may be an overview to you all, but what I have seen when we're working across large organizations is we tend to miss the simple, we tend to forget about the basics when we are so excited, so nerdy about the tech and the change that the tech can bring. So looking across a couple things. 1, organization. Where does your offering fit in the larger organization priorities? Where does it fit in their vision for agentic transformation? You know this, You can then tailor and be very specific about your approach, about your time, and about your investment. Where does your organization, where does your offering, sit in that previous chart, right? That previous framework organizations use when they're evaluating agentic adoption. Where does that sit? Where does that sit for not only the organization, then think about it for the business unit you're working with, and think about it for the individual that you're working with. What about time to value? How are you going to make sure that your timeline is aligned with their timeline? So we're talking a little bit about the organization. Now, second, look at the individual. And this is where we find the big shift. Do you have a champion? Do you have a change agent? When you're looking at that change agent, this is very important, right? Because we've seen a ton of different AI roles. We've seen AI organizations created. We've seen centers of excellence. But what we've seen is a lot of times that they operate very siloed. They operate more as AI research institutions, but they don't have the power to drive necessary change. They don't have the budget that you're going to need to implement your solutions across the organization. And very simply, you all have maybe heard of this. Do they have BANT? B-A-N-T, budget, authority, need, timeline. When we're looking across this, more broadly, do they have the support of the CEO? Do they have the support of the board, or are they operating in that silo? Are they geeking out? Are they excited about your tech? Are they in this vision with you? But ultimately, you're just going to have a lot of really cool, nerdy conversations, and they aren't going to be able to drive the change across the organization. And then when you look at that individual, look at where that process specifically sits. Who else owns that process? Who else cares about that process? Who touches it? Who's impacted by that process, right? You have to think about the process as the hub, right? What is coming off of that hub? Who else is involved? Who else sits there? Who else cares about it? Who else owns it? And then for that individual, for that group, for that business unit, what do they care about? Are they bought in? Do they get it? What is their level of AI fluency? Because that is what we're seeing when we're really talking about navigating this agentic adoption transformation. It's not about selling to one person, right? We've not been doing that for a while. We've had decision committees and all that boring shit, right? But do you have the necessary buy-in? Do you have the necessary people to actually drive transformation of process? And that's where it gets complicated, sitting across different business units, decision makers, et cetera. So now let's look at execution. So it's new frameworks. We're not just talking about proof of concepts, right? We've seen some really cool demos. We can show our capabilities pretty easily, but how are they translating to outcomes, right? Outcome-based pricing has been pretty trendy. It's been very talked about, but that is where we are going. And so when enterprises, when they're thinking about adopting at scale, they're not going to do that until they see the proof and they see the outcomes. So think about how you are working with your organizations and how you're showing the outcomes they're going to drive. So finally, trust underpins all of this, right? You need to show up, you need to deeply understand your business, your customer's business, where you sit. Are you an advisor? Are you more of a consultant? Have you earned the right to break some shit and ruffle some feathers? And if you haven't, you are going to end up just having a lot of really cool, interesting, nerdy conversations and not being able to sell within the enterprise. So listen, in summary, we have some brilliant tech in the room. There's some really exciting things about where the future is going. But if you find that you're coming against a wall in terms of actually selling into a company or the enterprise, go back to the basics. Ask yourself, where do I sit in the overall organization priorities and transformation? Where do I sit in their vision? Do I have the right people engaged? And do we have the right people bought in? Have I built trust by providing value? And am I able to help them guide them through and navigate through this change?